Hey, greetings. Thanks for coming along today. Is it too early for Indian summer? Would you call this Indian summer?
Farewell
Right?
to you,
I mean,
Indian summer.
Summer just ended last week, so...
Did you want me to sing the song, or are you probably thinking
What song is that?
it's Indian Summer?
I don't know it. I don't know it.
You don't know Ella Fitzgerald Indian Summer?
No. I'm sorry, I don't.
Well, I'm sad for you because you'd be happier as a person if you didn't know it.
I thought I knew
Yeah,
Ella.
you have her catalog in your
Yeah, I do.
mind.
Maybe just the way you were singing it. I'm just saying.
Well, clearly. I mean, you're right. I'm not even going to argue because you're
Okay,
right.
I mean, it's Kathy
I don't
Emmons
think
versus
no one
Ella
has ever.
Fitzgerald.
There's not a single person who's ever compared me to Ella.
Okay, well,
And it's never going to happen either.
okay, all right. I'm just saying. Is it Indian summer? It's nice out, isn't it?
It's super nice.
Fabulous.
Indian summer is usually later and hotter.
Okay.
It's like an 80-degree day in October or
Right.
something.
Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
anyway. How you doing?
It's still beautiful, though.
Oh, it's fabulous.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah,
really, really
fabulous.
beautiful.
You good today?
Yeah, I feel good, John.
All right, good.
Thanks for
I see you
asking.
wearing some accoutrements there.
Yeah,
I've got a
I've got a-
sweatshirt
well,
thing. Wait, that's a really interesting look. I haven't noticed the sleeves. The
Yeah.
sweatshirt with some little poofy sleeve thing.
Yeah, it's like got a little it's got some
What is that? It's like
it's got some glitz to it.
It's
It's
like
not
a-
glitz. It's got a ruffle to it.
Is it kind of like a workout, but
No,
night
yeah.
out?
Exactly. It's
Workout, night out.
transitional, as they call it.
I'm going to do some push-ups, and then I'm going to go see the opera.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I don't think I could wear this to the opera.
No. Well, you're wearing jewels. Some kind of
Yeah.
Very nice. I mean, for those of you who
Shells.
are, we're on radio. Of course, we're on YouTube as well.
Yeah, the ride home streaming live on YouTube at The Word Pittsburgh.
The Word.
If you want to see my silly shirt,
Very nice.
which I like a lot. And I'm wearing boots again. It's definitely fall.
Oh, it is definitely fall.
The
I bought a
boots
pair
are
of
out.
boots today.
Yeah, you did.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
With my vitality points.
Which is a crack up.
Just saying. Anyway, we do digress. As we always do, Kath. Get us underway here with the news stories of the day.
Yes.
Please give us the top 4 at 4.
For Wednesday, John, Christy, all ye, September 29th. Number 1. It's been nearly a full month since the U.S. military presence in Afghanistan ended, and President Biden declared our longest war over. But, of course, the recriminations over the chaotic and in many ways absurd withdrawal are still very much ongoing, and they reached a fever pitch yesterday and this morning as 3 senior Pentagon officials, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley, and CENTCOM Commander General Kenneth Frank McKenzie testified before Congress for the first time since the withdrawal. According to this morning's dispatch, as the Senate Armed Services Committee hearing wore on, the extent to which the president's withdrawal plans ignored the advice of his top generals became staggeringly clear. Throughout the hearing, each of the 3 officials declined on procedural grounds to disclose precise details of their conversations with and recommendations to the president, but they were remarkably candid in sharing their own opinions. An exchange between McKenzie and GOP Senator James Inhofe made clear that a similar recommendation from General Scott Miller, commander of U.S. forces in Afghanistan until mid-July, did reach the president directly. So the president can't say, well, I didn't really hear about that.
Right.
The candid comments from Biden's top military advisors directly contradicted comments the president made to ABC News in a mid-August interview with George Stephanopoulos.
All right, so when we mess up here and we get called into management's office and there's a faux pas,
Yeah.
I'll say, I can't discuss this due to procedural grounds.
Yeah, I don't think management's going to take that very well.
I can't discuss it.
Yeah.
Procedural grounds.
Do you know who the management is of the president?
Who's that?
All of us.
Hey.
Number 2. The International Olympic Committee today offered a first glimpse of the COVID-19 protocols that will be in place at the upcoming 2022 Winter Games in Beijing, which are in January, like they're coming up, including lengthy quarantines for unvaccinated participants, daily COVID testing, and the absence of international spectators. Boo. Piss.
Oh, really?
The countermeasures, which were proposed by local Beijing organizers and detailed in the news release, mirror those at the recent Summer Games in some respects and appear more strict in others. According to USA Today, among the most notable differences, unlike in Tokyo where athletes mostly competed behind closed doors, Beijing organizers have indicated that some Chinese fans will be permitted to attend the games as long as they follow protocols. Foreign spectators, though, including athletes, family members, and friends, will once again not be able to go, which stinks.
COVID ruins everything.
COVID does. Number 3. All employees working for Allegheny County's executive branch must be vaccinated by December 1st, County Executive Rich Fitzgerald said today. According to the Trib, Mr. Fitzgerald said, quote, as we continue to see cases of COVID in our county and different populations being affected, it is even more important that our workforce be protected. Leaders in areas outside the executive branch will have the leeway to decide whether their employees will be subject to the new policy. That includes the courts, county council, and other elected officers like the controller's office, the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and the treasurer. And number 4, you know I had to talk about it, Kodiak. The National Aviary in the North Side is asking the public to help find him, the Stellar's sea eagle that escaped from his outdoor enclosure on Saturday. According to the Trib, the aviary has been closed since Saturday as groups of staff and volunteers fan out across the north side to try to find and capture the large raptor that is almost twice the size of a bald eagle.
Wow.
In the last several days, the aviary has received numerous tips. Okay, so Cody's around. The Stellar's fish eagle, he's hard to miss, as it is the largest bird by far anywhere around here. I can tell you that for sure because he stands close to 3 feet tall, and his wingspan is almost 6 feet.
Wow.
Also, there's his massive yellow beak. Hard to miss that, as well as the large white patches on his shoulders and white tail. I don't think you're going to mistake him for like a robin hanging out in your backyard. Cody is not expected to be soaring high in the sky like bald eagles and turkey vultures, but is likely to take short flights from tree to tree or tree to perch.
Why is that?
Like, that's what he does. He
Maybe
doesn't have
just-
to explain himself to you.
He's probably just, not in shape.
If someone sees Cody, they should not approach him or make loud noises because it would startle him and cause him to fly away. But keep in mind, oh, by the way, that's your top 4 at 4.
Okay, very nice.
I want to give you some more details, though.
All right.
Cody is alert, they say cautious, and can be startled. He's 16 years old, and though he's lived his entire life in captivity, he is capable of catching his food, particularly rodents, which are part of his diet at the aviary.
Okay. If you were, the over-under, do you think they're going to catch him?
Yes.
I say no.
I say yes.
I say
they
absolutely
are
not.
going to catch.
Nope.
Yep.
He has flown the
Cody
coop.
is coming home.
Nope.
Cody is coming home. Christy, be
Flown
the
coop.
tiebreaker.
He's gone.
He's gone.
No,
yeah,
get
thank
out.
you.
You guys.
Thank you, Christy.
You
Who wants to go back to that enclosure?
you don't know. He might have liked it a lot.
He's tasted some freedom. He is like sky high right now. He's feeling good.
No, he's going from perch to perch. He doesn't fly
Only because
sky high.
because he's been in this little tight enclosure. He doesn't have any wing strength, so he has to sort of hop around from place to place. But once he gets his muscles back, boom.
I was concerned about winter.
Yeah.
But I looked that up. Cold weather should not impact him as Stellar's sea eagles are from Russia.
Yeah. I don't think much will impact him.
No.
I mean,
He's
seriously.
also, according to the aviary, in excellent condition and has no health concerns.
So he's 16. What's his life expectancy? Any
I
idea
don't
of that?
you know what? I don't know
I
that.
wonder.
That's a good question, though.
Could he be 40? Could he live to? That'd be hard on.
Maybe, though. I don't know.
Birds don't live that long.
Well, he's not. I know he's a bird, but he's not your usual bird.
He's 16 though. I mean, I don't know. What do we know?
I didn't know he lived his entire life in captivity.
That's sad.
I thought the earliest portion of his life he was in the wild and that he was in
Yeah.
captivity.
So he was born as a little chick in a little.
Now, why is it? He's been cared for.
It's sad. I just think it's sad. I'm pro Cody. Go.
No,
Boom.
Cody, you don't know. Again, do I need to bring up Shawshank again? Do I?
Brooks was here.
You guys.
Brooks.
Did we learn nothing?
No, I don't think. Maybe
It's
Cody.
not all I'm saying is it's not as easy as you think.
So if you're following the Shawshank, then you have to go to where the stone wall is, right? Go to the stone wall, and there you'll find the unusual stone. Pull it away, and there's the key to Cody's
I'm not
existence.
saying it's an exact match. I'm just saying.
It's a poor analogy.
It is a poor analogy.
Okay,
I
just
agree. It is a poor analogy.
right.
I'm just saying Cody's been used to a certain thing, and he's going to go out into the world and not know what to do.
That's right. Just like Brooks.
And that's
Brooks was
going
here,
to be really sad.
and then he wasn't.
Don't break my heart again, Cody. Come back.
Josh Brown's up next. We're going to
I'm
talk
going to ask
about
Josh if he's seen Cody.
1 Corinthians 4.
Maybe Cody's in Oakland. leaders are in a tough position
All leaders.
right now. All leaders. Whether you are an elected official, we talked about Rich Fitzgerald announcing regulations for a portion of Allegheny County leadership. And of course, people freak out. Pastors who lead churches are in an untenable position because people in their congregation disagree strongly about many things. Especially things going on in culture right now. And so they, want their pastor to be on their side. But it's not just pastors or elected leaders. I think it's anybody. It's somebody who runs a corporation. It's somebody who is an office manager, or someone who owns a Wendy's, or who takes care of managing a Starbucks, or whatever it is. If you're making any type of regulation or saying anything that you feel like is the right thing to say or do, you're going to get blowback.
No doubt about that.
That's what it is.
Well, Josh Brown is with us. Josh Brown is a leader. He's a pastor at Belfield Presbyterian Church in the Oakland neighborhood of Pittsburgh. And Josh, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well, John. Kathy, thanks for having me once again.
Always good, Josh. Thank you.
So I'm not lying, am I, Josh? It's a hard time for leaders.
It's an interesting season for sure. And I think, as you said, it's not confined to really just any one sphere of life. I think people are feeling that on all kinds of fronts, and certainly when even limited to leaders, although anybody that's in a position of leadership is perhaps feeling it in some ways that they hadn't before.
So I think we've got some maybe spiritual formation issues. It doesn't seem like a lot of leaders are particularly able to hear from their congregants or constituents. Yep. But I also think we've got a lot of congregants or constituents that don't know how to express themselves well or kindly or with a spirit of generosity. So tell us what the scriptures have, like, where do we go when we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we live? How in light of what, Jesus has called us to do, in light of these really tense times, what do we say and do?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Kathy. And it's certainly not a one-way dynamic. I think the inability to communicate well and graciously and listen well and listen graciously, I think is it's a two-way street. It's going in every direction here. So first, I wouldn't want to give any indication that I feel like, well, it's a problem that is out there and I'm immune from it on any way. It's a challenge that everybody is facing, and I think that one of the things we can do, a couple of maybe trouble spots we can get ourselves into are and this is usually the case, it's the opposite extremes, right? One is that you don't care at all what anybody thinks. You just kind of do your thing, say whatever you want to say, give no regard whatsoever to kind of the scorched earth you may leave in your wake. That's not helpful. That's not good. The other one is to think that it's only about the kind of immediate impression that you make, and you kind of have a very tunnel vision of things. It's only the person in front of me that's the only thing that matters. And I don't mean to disregard, to kind of downplay the relationship with the person in front of you, but there's a passage in one of the letters that Paul wrote to the Christians in Corinth where I think he's addressing some of these dynamics, and he's trying to bring a bigger picture into view when he's saying, look, it's ultimately about the account that you're going to have to give to the Lord. You have been called to be a steward of the things that he has given you. And so you need to steward them well because you're going to be given an account to him. So that, I think, pushes back against both of those tendencies of thinking that it doesn't matter at all how you handle stuff, or thinking that the most important thing is how the person engaging with you on social media responds. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, it does.
It does. So when you're thinking about, let's talk about what Paul prescribes or the situation that he describes. Can you set it up for us?
Sure, yeah. The passage that I had in mind when I mentioned that is in 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 1 through 5. And in that passage, Paul writes this. He says, "This is how one should regard us, as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful. But with me, it is a very small thing that I should be judged by you or by any human court. In fact, I do not even judge myself. For I am not aware of anything against myself, but I am not thereby acquitted. It is the Lord who judges me. Therefore, do not pronounce judgment before the time comes, before the Lord comes, who will bring to light the things now hidden in darkness, and will disclose the purposes of the heart. Then each one will receive his commendation from God." In in a nutshell, what Paul is saying at that particular point is he's saying, look, ultimately, you need to regard me as a servant of Jesus Christ, and I am a steward. And here, we hear stewardship, and I think many of us automatically think finances, right? Stewardship is a campaign that your church runs once a year to get you to up your giving or something like that. But to be a steward is really just to take care of something that's been entrusted to you. And that's what it is. You're caring for something that has been entrusted to you. And here Paul is talking about being entrusted with the gospel. So he says, I'm a steward of the gospel. I'm here to proclaim the good news of Jesus. I need to be faithful with that. And he says, ultimately, how you judge me in that is not the most important thing. He said, in fact, how I judge myself in that is even not the most important thing. He said, it's the Lord's opinion that matters the most. And so if the Lord is to say that I have been faithful in stewarding this gospel message that he has given me, that is the most important thing, Paul is saying. Because in the end, everything else is going to come to light. He says everything, all the things that are hidden, all the stuff that's going on in everybody's heart, that's all going to come to light in the end. So I'm not worried about that. The most important thing is if I'm faithful with this message that God has given me.
Right. Now, okay, so Josh, when I hear you say that, right, people can use that verse as a weapon in some way, right? I mean, the Lord told me this, so clearly I'm right.
Sure. Yeah, they definitely can. As with any part of Scripture, context is always important, right? Like John, I think what maybe you're getting at is in verse 3. Paul says basically, look, it doesn't matter to me it doesn't matter if you judge me. That's not my opinion. And if you just isolate that, that people can take that as a license then to just be incredibly rude or say, hey. If for example, if I were to say, hey, John, I don't really care what you think of me. It doesn't really matter. Your opinion doesn't matter, so I'm just going to treat you or speak to you however. That is entirely not what Paul is getting at in there. This whole beginning part of the letter, the whole first part is him saying, look, here's what the gospel is. And I know you guys have been questioning if I've been faithful in it. And I know that maybe I haven't been this kind of, you look, especially chapter 2, it's kind of Paul saying, look, I'm not the celebrity pastor that you want me to be, but that's not the point. I've been given this message, and so I need to be faithful with the message. So, if you only look at a little part of verse 3 there, you could take that, like you said, you could weaponize it and just say, well, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I'm going to do and say what I want. That's not what he's getting at there.
Josh Brown is with us, Bellefield Presbyterian Church in the Oakland section of Pittsburgh. Josh, there's one segment of this passage that just every time I read it or hear it, it kind of gives me chills. He will bring to light which is hidden in the darkness and will expose the motives of men's hearts. I mean, none of us can hide anything. So when we think about, how eager we all are for clicks or likes online or for, applause from men and women or whatever it is, when it comes down to it, we're not going to be able to pull something over on God or give him our, best photo or make our best impression.
He knows.
No, you're exactly right. And that is a very, very sobering verse for exactly the reason you pointed out there. God's going to see right through everything and and it says we'll disclose the purposes of the heart. Yeah, that's where I think it just cuts the deepest. It's not just what actions did you do that other people saw and did they think they looked impressive, but what even motivated you to do that action? Like you said, were you doing it just so other people would pat you on the back and tell you how great you were? Because that is not the right reason to be doing this. And God gets all that stuff to light. Yeah, that's a heavy verse.
It sure is. I mean, it's interesting because at one point, you people could weaponize it. At another point, you go, you better be humble because God knows.
Yeah. This whole section in the letter, all the first part of it is there's a lot that's in there that is really worth spending some time with. As I said, I mean, Paul starts off the letter and he's writing to a church. I think most people who are familiar with the letter of 1 Corinthians know that it's a church that's going through some difficulty. There's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of group dynamics. There's a lot of difficult things going on. And when he starts off, he says, look, he said, I didn't come to you with all this eloquence and wisdom, and I didn't come with this impressive display of rhetorical skill or anything. This is chapter 2. He says, I came in weakness and fear and much trembling, and I decided to know nothing among you but Jesus Christ and him crucified. He said, because your faith needs to rest in the power of the Spirit and not in anybody else. So it's a fascinating discussion that's going on here. And this point is where he's getting up to that point of saying, look, even everything that I'm doing and how you guys are judging me, it even goes deeper than that. God's gonna bring to light all of these things. And in the end, it's about, have I been faithful with the good news of Jesus?
Amen.
Wow. Josh Brown with us from Bellefield Presbyterian Church in Oakland. Josh, tell us what's happening at Bellefield and what's it like on Pitt's campus?
Yeah, we are. We're located right in the middle of the University of Pittsburgh, right adjacent to Carnegie Mellon and Carlisle and a couple others. So universities are back trying to figure things out. Everyone's been a little bit different in their guidelines and things like that, but it's been good to try to find ways still to connect with students, providing a place where they can study scriptures and be in fellowship and have opportunities to pray and serve is really important. So we're trying to offer those in the best ways that we can to not just the university community, but to the larger community down there. So, we have a couple different options for worshiping on Sundays in the morning or in the evening or online. People can find that stuff out on our website, which is bellefield.org, as well as a host of other ways that we're trying to just love and serve our community.
Very nice. Josh, always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Josh Brown, Bellefield Presbyterian Church, talking about 1 Corinthians 4, 1
First
through 5,
Yep.
but then back for the context.
Right.
We'll take a quick break, come back. Dollar Tree's in the news. We'll talk about that next. You ever shop at the dollar store?
Sure. The one in Westview. That's my favorite one. Down by the Giant Eagle in Westview Plaza.
Oh, I never used to, but then our friend Megan said,
Buy your cleaning products there.
yeah, which makes
I
perfect
think
sense.
I was there for that conversation.
Yeah, I think you were. Well, news today is that the Dollar Tree is not going to be the Dollar Tree. I mean, they're going to raise their prices. Dollar Tree said it would start selling products at $1.25 or $1.50 or other prices slightly
Well,
above
now
a dollar.
that's just awkward.
Well, I mean, look, everything's been
Look,
inflation.
math has been easy at the dollar store.
Yeah,
Why do we need to make it hard?
because prices.
So what? It's the $1.29 store.
Well, we made a $1.280 store or the $1.50,
Well,
right? 50 cent,
no, I don't want to.
$1.50 cent.
No, I don't want to do that.
They're going to change it. So the Dollar Tree stores have said they are experimenting with selling items for $3 and $5. They've been doing this in select stores since 2019. They got 7,900 stores nationwide. The addition of more above a dollar items is a response, of course, to rising costs and positive consumer feedback. Hey, we're positive, raise the prices.
Well, what positive
I don't know.
consumer feedback?
Well, but probably because it allows them to sell a wider berth of
Okay.
product, right?
Okay, but if you want to buy things that are more than $1, you can go to all the other stores. The reason that the dollar store is called the dollar store is all the other stores
Yep.
charge you more than $1.
All stores with Dollar Tree Plus sections will get products at the above dollar price points, as well as some legacy stores. While Dollar Tree is in an unusual position because of its pricing model, it is navigating a nearly universal problem for businesses around the world. I'm reading from today's Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
Okay, what is your favorite thing that you buy at the dollar store?
Gum?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Christy. You don't go to the dollar store.
Not really.
Well, see, you're missing
Listen,
out.
you're on a budget.
I am,
You
but
should get there.
Yeah.
I mean-
she's broke. That's what she told us.
Yeah.
So she
you could
should
be living
you
at the
should go
dollar
there.
store.
but I don't. What do you get at the dollar? Like I've been to Dollar General.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. But the
Yeah.
Dollar Tree, Dollar General.
Because they're all the same.
Big
They're not
Lots.
all the same, but they're dollar stores.
Is Big Lots a dollar store?
No.
it's not. It's different.
No. John?
No, I guess it's not.
No, absolutely not. No, I'm telling you, dollar store means everything
Is
in
a
the
buck.
store is $1.
Yeah.
And then you pay tax if you have to, but it's $1.
Seriously, if I'm doing a gum run,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Really?
I'll buy 10 things of gum at a time.
Oh.
I feel really good about myself.
You know my favorite thing? Gift bags
Oh.
and tissue paper.
No, what about that? I don't like that.
You don't like what?
When you get a gift, it's in a bag, a little blob of toilet paper over it. It feels like you're cheating. It does.
It's not toilet paper.
Well,
Second of all,
whatever it
someone
is.
put time into
No, they
coming up
didn't.
with a
No, they didn't.
coordinating bag and paper.
I mean, I'd rather you put it like in a blue Giant Eagle bag. It's kind of the same thing. You're just trying to put a little bow around and go, oh, here you go. If you wrap it nicely with a bow and nice wrapping paper, that makes it special.
You don't want to see my wrapping.
Uh-oh.
That's why it goes in the bag.
Exactly. Okay, you know
Maybe
what?
you just practice and get better.
You know what he's
And all my free time,
what he's intimating, Christy, is that it's tawdry.
it is tawdry.
Wait, I thought about that word last night a lot. And
Did you?
Yeah. I like the word,
Yeah.
but it does come with a lot of baggage.
Right, like moral baggage.
Tawdry. I guess it does have moral baggage, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
But-
That's okay. When I pulled out my TV tray last night, I felt good about it.
Oh, you did.
I did. I was like, you know what? John thinks I'm tawdry, and I'm all right.
But it stuck in your craw, didn't it?
I liked it. I feel like I'm strong enough to take it down.
All right.
I can't wait till you come over to my house and I just bring you one. Like John's going to sit down and I'm just going to deliver him.
I
a
don't
TV
know. I
tray.
think I just use my hand. Just hold it in my hand.
No, because having a portable table next to you, you can just reach over, get your beverage, take a sip, put it back.
It's such kind of shaky, isn't it? It's a little small. It seems just kind of meh.
Its purpose is that it is small. That's why you have it.
Yeah.
So it fits into a
The tray
spot that'll
table
work.
is kind of like the gift bag. It's sort of on the same par. Close, but no cigar, is what I would say. That's all. What I say, tawdry.
Yeah.
Look it up,
exactly.
please.
The two
Look
things.
that up.
The two things I
It
advocated.
means cheap. I looked it up.
Very good.
See, does it mean cheap? It seems like it means like morally less than. Also, does it have any of that?
Ann Kennedy's back with us. Ann's a regular on our show. She is the author of Nailed It, 365 Sarcastic Devotionals for Angry and Worn Out People, and blogs every day at preventinggrace.com. She lives in upstate New York, where she mothers 6 children, lives with her husband, an Anglican priest. Ann, welcome back. How are you?
It's great to be here. I'm doing pretty well. How are you guys?
Wonderful.
We're fine. We're good.
Yeah, I mean, John's throwing around some adjectives about some of my opinions over the last couple days, Ann.
Wait, Ann.
We'll flesh those out.
We'll digress. But we talked about TV trays, and the other day I said they were tawdry.
Oh,
And
that escalates it quickly.
doesn't it? And then I told him after he said they were tawdry that every single meal I ate growing up with my parents, I ate on a TV tray.
Boy,
and then
that was a long shadow I cast. Sorry.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring that up.
I mean, I like the occasional TV tray. So,
Yeah.
The occasional.
yeah.
I mean, we
it
all dip
has
into
to be-
the tawdry occasionally, don't we, Ann?
Yeah,
Just say-
here and there.
Here and there.
Of course, there it is.
All right. All
It's an
right.
occasion for sin.
Yeah. Okay. So
Right.
okay. So speaking of dipping in maybe in areas that we shouldn't,
Yeah.
your governor, you live in upstate New York, and your governor just spoke at a church this past Sunday. When did you first hear about it?
Well, I heard about it because I'm on Twitter, and Woke Preacher Clips put it right up, and then it was picked up by major news outlets.
Okay.
And I'm followed by Woke Preacher Clips, incidentally, who's very famous, so I just want to throw that out there,
Oh,
too.
of course. Excellent. That's not tawdry at all. Okay, so
No.
let's take a pause here and let's hear the clip of the governor and what she said this past Sunday.
God let you survive this pandemic because he wants you to do great things someday. He lets you live through this when so many other people did not. And that is also your responsibility. But how do we keep more people alive? We are not through this pandemic. I wished we were, but I prayed a lot to God during this time. And you know what? God did answer our prayers. He made the smartest men and women, the scientists, the doctors, the researchers. He made them come up with a vaccine. That is from God to us. And we must say, thank you, God. Thank you. And I wear my vaccinated necklace all the time to say, I'm vaccinated. All of you. Yes, I know you're vaccinated. You're the smart ones. But you know there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants. You know this. You know who they are. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other.
All right, well, that's just a little taste of it, Ann. So you're a constituent there
It's a lot to unpack.
in New York, and that is a lot to unpack. Where do you want to go first?
Well, yeah, it is. It's one of those things where in 30 seconds there's so many things. It's really hard to pick one, which I don't even think I can do right now. But so first of all, New York State is pretty divided, as the entire country is, about what people think about COVID and the vaccine and everything else. And so in our church, we've threaded a very, very careful and narrow way between people who have very different Christian convictions on this issue. And we have not allowed anyone to come in and say anything like our governor just said, who we do pray for every Sunday, by the way. And we're grateful to have a new governor, I should say. So we don't, in our theology, really try to let people speak for God. We let the scriptures speak for God. And so we would never say we incidentally also lost a lot of people in the time of COVID, not necessarily to COVID, but to nursing home deaths. And we would never say why God let some people die and some people live, because God hasn't told us that. So we beg for his mercy, and the people that he took to himself were really, we pray for them, or we're grateful that they lived good Christian lives, and the people that have survived, we're grateful for that too, but we don't know why he chose to make those very epic decisions. That's one thing. And then the second thing is, of course, I think gratitude is really, really a good thing. So we should say thank you to God. But with the other side of that is not because we're the good ones, because we got vaccinated. That's not why we thank God. We thank God for his mercy, which it could be the vaccine, and many people feel that it's the vaccine, but other people feel like they're having a hard time being thankful for the vaccine because it's being pushed now with religious fervor, which makes people very, very uncomfortable. So you can't, it's so unhelpful to force other people's convictions that they don't have by using the scriptures in a way that they're not meant to be used. Right. And then use the name of God. Christians are rightfully criticized, maligned when they do that, and many of them do. But it's also unhelpful when politicians do it, and of course, many politicians do. So.
So to thread that needle, I mean, very, very carefully. I mean, I appreciate that you said that the church that, your husband is the Anglican priest, that's a very difficult position to be in. And then to see a politician, a brand new governor in the state of New York, after the old governor had to step down, for her to attend a service and speak from the pulpit like that, I think that was... at the least gutsy, and at the worst just misconstrued. I mean, really just poor theology on her part.
It's interesting because she does speak pretty fluidly about God, so she must. I don't know anything about her background at all, but she talks about Jesus and she talks about God in a way that, other politicians, it seems very awkward. Yes. So maybe she does attend a church. I don't know. I don't know how familiar she is with the scriptures. She invokes the love of Jesus as a reason for us to go out and compel people that we love to get the vaccine, which is also something that the New Testament, that's not what Jesus means by loving your neighbor. What he means by loving your neighbor is being willing to die for the good of another person as he died for us. So that probably doesn't include COVID policy, going out and lecturing other people about whether or not they should be vaccinated. I haven't been willing to include that as part of my Christian witness. I've been willing to pray for people as they've had COVID. I've been willing to mask. I myself have gotten vaccinated, but the love of Jesus is about the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is that he came and lived and died to save us from our sins. And we are all sinners. Whether or not you get COVID or not, you're still a sinner. And your Christian status shouldn't be based on your vaccination status. It's so unhelpful to join two things together that are meant to be kept asunder.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with politics and faith when they intersect. I'm not saying that they shouldn't intersect, because they have to intersect. Our faith has to impact everything about what we do. But boy, things get dicey when you mix politics in with it. It has to be done, but it has to be done so carefully. And I think that's the problem, my problem with what the governor of New York said on Sunday. It's just that I feel like it was done lightly. And as you're saying, I feel like the things that she's saying, I think you could make an argument for the fact that being vaccinated is part of how we love our neighbor. But I think that has to be done very cautiously. And I think it might start with the question, can we link them, as opposed to we are linking them. And of course, that requires a careful reading of scripture, and it requires a knowledge of the whole story, beginning to end, and not just a little verse here and there. And certainly, we didn't even talk about this yet. Her saying, I need apostles, is not kosher. And that's probably mixing metaphors, but that's just not, it's not okay.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I don't want to be the apostle of the governor of New York for any reason, on anything. And also, I'm in the kind of church that thinks that we don't, this is why, incidentally, my church thinks we don't have apostles anymore, because anyone can come along and say, well, I'm one of them. Yep. And then you have to battle it out and say, well, I don't think you are. And then they say, well, yes, I am. So we have a really wonderful scripture. The whole counsel that God wanted us to have is there in written form, and you can literally crack it open and read it, and then God can help you discern what to do in the very difficult things that are in front of you, and how to love your neighbor, and what to do when you're ill, and who to vote for. Even all of that can be informed by the scripture, but the private. I mean, you do want to be open, and a Christian who evangelizes and talks openly to people about matters of faith, of course. But where the scripture doesn't say something, obviously you should not be an apostle of that thing. You should tread very cautiously. And I know, on the right, this is the propensity of the right and the left to say, well, God wants you to do this. We all like to do that, but that's not a good invitation. You really should invite people to know the Lord and to be forgiven for sins, and you should be willing to die for the sake of others, and then let his own apostles who were there a long time ago and then went to be with him.
Yes, I'll into that. And so you made reference, your husband's a pastor in an Anglican church. Of course, you're along for the ride as well, whether you signed up for it or not. And the difficult times that we are in, I mean, you can't make this up. This is such a weird, unusual time. How do you navigate this? I mean, Matt must have 1,000,001 stories, and the two of you, along with your, the elders in the church and all the congregation, like every other church in the United States. I mean, just trying to navigate through this. It's got to be extremely difficult just day to day, when really what you want to do is gather together and worship.
It has been the toughest part of our ministry. We've been at it for 20 years now. So we're maybe in the middle of our ministry, I hope, unless we die tomorrow, which is totally possible. But one thing that I have seen, and I welcome people to give witness to the work of God in the world, even the governor, and that's that God has been very active through COVID, but you don't know what it is that he's doing unless you know individual people and can see his action in their lives. You're not seeing the action of God on the television screen or through politicians or who's doing, even through science. Scientists turn around like a great, wielded like a cudgel. The action of God, if you're looking for it, you can see it in people's individual lives as God sustains them through impossible circumstances and encourages them when they are so downcast. He raises up the lowly. He strengthens the church to care for people who are on the very edge of being able to cope. And our church has done well during COVID, and he has strengthened us through suffering and loss, but only we can see that because we're with each other and we're trusting him. The wide world can't see it, and we can't. We shouldn't lightly use that witness, the work that he's doing, to score off of people who disagree with us. That's not a good way for us to have a Christian witness in COVID.
Yeah.
That's really good. Well said.
You're absolutely right. And terrific to talk to you as always. We love engaging with you on Twitter and on, I don't know, all the other places we talk to you.
But you're just funny as all get out.
Yeah.
Too. You really are.
We laugh. So go off and gather your own apostles. Okay.
Oh, thanks. I'll give it my best shot.
They may be your children.
That's a joke.
That is a joke,
Dad,
people. That's
Dad.
a joke. No one email me. That's just a joke.
Anne is wry. She's very wry.
And I'm Tawdry. So
Anne Kennedy, preventinggrace.com. That's where you'll find her every day. She's a wonderful writer. You know, they always say there's no such thing as a free lunch.
But there is.
Yeah. October 19th, Doubletree by Hilton Green Tree. It's our 15th annual Pastor Appreciation Luncheon, and it's free. A senior pastor, associate pastor, and your spouses are invited. It's easy, and it's free. All you got to do is go to wordfm.com. You'll see the Pastor Appreciation Luncheon banner at the top of the page. Jack Graham, who is the lead pastor at Prestonwood Baptist Church in Texas, he'll be the keynote speaker. There'll be live music as well. A good time will be had by all.
If you're concerned about COVID-19, well, so are we. And so there's going to be social distancing, and we're going to be, responsible as we can. We're going to have more space in the room than we normally do. And
CDC guidelines.
we want to follow CDC guidelines and make sure everybody's safe and has a great time.
Right. I mean, that's possible, right?
To be safe and have a great time.
To be social
Listen,
distance and have a good time, right?
I'm telling you, I've had a lot of great times over the last year and a half.
Have you?
Well,
Have you really? I mean, no, really.
because COVID ruins everything.
No, listen, this is cool. I look forward to this every year.
Yeah, I do too.
It's always fun, always interesting, always good to see old friends and meet new friends as well.
Remember the year Tony Evans was the main speaker?
Oh, I remember it well because I thought his head was going to explode.
I thought it was too. Listen, if Tony hears this, I hope he laughs. We wasn't
wasn't
laughing
laughing then.
No, he certainly wasn't. Tony Evans is one of my all-time favorite pastors.
But his son,
I was so excited to meet him. But Tony's son played for the Cowboys.
and is wasn't he the chaplain?
He might have been the chaplain at one point.
Yeah.
Anyway, when Tony came, I got up on stage with him. John was on one side of him, I was on the other. And we just decked him out with Steelers stuff. I mean, I put Steelers sunglasses on him. I had a Palomalu jersey.
Terrible
He had
towel.
a terrible towel.
We're waving it around.
And I really thought he would take it like he'd laugh. And
no, no.
Nope.
I mean, sports was a really...
It was not funny to Tony.
Everybody else had a good time.
I-
It wasn't malicious.
No,
we were
I
just,
thought it would be funny.
Goofing. Anyway, pal, October 19th, go to wordfm.com and sign up. It's free. Pastors, associate pastors, and the spouses. Hey, this time last week, we were talking about food for the poor and the earthquake in Haiti, and we talking about.
And if we haven't thanked you all enough for all being incredibly generous, we want to say it again.
We do.
Thank you
Yeah,
for being
really.
so incredibly generous.
But what's interesting is, one of the things we're talking about, whether it's food for the poor or, any of the ministries that we say come and, share this platform, is that we're so invested in them because we've seen the work that's being done. And especially Food for the Poor, because they've been on the ground in Haiti for decades. We've said this repeatedly over the last couple of weeks. Well, it's interesting. I thought about that today because I saw a piece in the Washington Post, and an Instagram star, which is problematic from the get-go. A guy by the name of Tommy Marcus. He's an Instagram star who posts as Quentin Quarantino.
Okay.
He asked his 690,000 followers to help fund evacuation flights for Afghan civilians fleeing the Taliban rule. Now, that's a very good thing, right?
It's a great thing.
The donations poured in. His target was $550,000, an amount that he said would pay for 2 flights and rescue at least 300 people. Well, that goal was hit, listen to this, in 80 minutes. Now, over the course of him asking for this, $7.2 million came into this Instagram star's account. And he said, quote, "We want to be clear that every single nickel of everything raised will go to either pay for flights or support these humans through various nonprofits." He wrote on this something called Flyaway GoFundMe page. Well, here's the deal. No Afghans have been evacuated on flights by Flyaway, the Washington Post said. The examination found that Flyaway spent $3.3 million on flights that were canceled, for which it has not received refunds.
Oh, my gosh.
In some cases, Flyaway has helped pay for flights organized by other groups or lent money to make flights possible. In others, Flyaway says it has helped Afghans reach airports. And though this Instagram star says that Flyaway has helped evacuate hundreds of people, organizers acknowledged to the Washington Post that most of them departed on flights paid for by us, U.S. taxpayers' money.
Wow. Okay, so that is a cautionary tale.
It is.
Because here's a guy who I don't know anything about him. I've never heard his name, and I don't follow him on Instagram.
Right.
But I want to be generous and say that he had good intentions.
Yes.
And everybody who heard about what was happening with the U.S. pullout in Afghanistan wanted
Breaks your
to
heart.
do something. You want to do something. And so that's why he got such a response, because so many people want to be a part of a solution. The problem is, when we give our money to somebody who's not already on the ground, we're giving money to people who don't know what they're doing.
Amen to this. Listen to this. A woman by the name of Laurie Styron, executive director of the American Institute of
Philanthropy?
Yes, thank you.
So I'm here.
Described crowdfunding campaigns as the Wild West of charity fundraising. Because, like you said, it's amateurs doing professionals' work. The heart may be in the right place, but that money flows in so quickly, and then who knows what happens to
Right.
it. Not to say, again, that there's anything that's untoward or illegal about what's happened
Right.
here, but you've given money, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
No, because the person who is receiving the money doesn't know what they're doing.
Yep.
It's not that they have bad intentions. They're just ill-equipped.
Yep, exactly. So anyway, you'll see this a lot. I mean, I don't know. You want to help people, right? GoFundMe campaigns, of course.
Right.
But man, oh man, where does that money go to? How is it spent?
Yep.
That's a whole other story.
Well, you remember years ago when the previous earthquake happened in Haiti and the American Red Cross went.
Yeah.
And you remember they set up ship, off the coast, and
Then they sat there.
they sat there. And then, I don't know 4 months later, there was a cholera outbreak, right? And it wasn't that they intended that there would be a cholera outbreak. It's just that they were new to the environment. They were new to the situation, and they had to start from ground up.
Yeah.
And they just
Weren't equipped.
and then they didn't really know the technicalities of what they were doing, and a lot of people got sick. So if you're giving money, give it to the pros. I mean that. Obviously investigate whatever organization that you want to give money to. Go on Charity Navigator,
Charity
see what they
Navigator.
have to say.
We talk about that all the time, too.
We do. And the more open an organization can be, the better off you are. But for sure, $7.5 million is an incredible stash. And the problem is nobody knows how to get people out of Afghanistan. That's the problem.
Right.
Right? Short of you paying the Taliban, which would work.
Yeah. But who wants to
I
do
don't know.
that?
I don't know what you're
You
going
don't
to do.
wanna do
I
that,
don't know how. I'm not sure anyone knows how to do it.
No.
Hey, let me just break in and say, speaking of Afghanistan,
Yeah.
we had a great event a week ago at Christchurch at Grove Farm with Joe Sweeney, who has been on our show numerous times, and he has worked for the U.S. State Department in a contractor capacity, lived in Afghanistan for the better portion of the last 3 or 4 years. Thank you to everybody who came out for that.
Cool event.
We had a great time, met so many terrific listeners at that event. We were able to spend some what I thought was significant time in prayer. It was educational. I think there was some good give and take between people. And it just highlighted in my head, John, you were on vacation and missed it. But it highlighted in my head just the complicated nature of what's happening in that country.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you hear it from Joe himself.
Right. Joe and his people are efforting to get their co-workers out of the country.
All those guys who
and
helped,
but
all those
it's
families.
but they're pros,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, if you're going to give money, I would suggest the ASERVO project, ASSERVO, if you're interested in relief efforts out of Afghanistan, because Operation Afghan Freedom is an arm of the ASERVO project, and they're trying to do that now.
Isn't that funny that, the news cycle and how we all sort of get sucked into it, if you're following along, right? I mean, that evacuation from Afghanistan was only a couple of weeks ago. It feels like it was 5 years ago.
Because, right, it's just we have to
Right?
focus our entire attention, and then we have to forget about it. That's
Right.
what happens in the news.
and then get sucked up into something
That's-
else or become outraged by something else.
Right.
Or,
And I don't know how
it's
to.
exhausting.
I don't know how to handle that well. Sometimes I think I get mad at the news media, and then I think maybe it's me.
It is you. I'm not. I mean, it's me too. It's you.
Well,
and-
he's coming down.
It's you and that tawdry behavior once again. No. Here's the deal. It's all of us because if you're clicking along, heaven help us. One of the early memories of my life is looking at my grandfather, who, in my mind as a young boy was ancient, of him sitting in his easy chair, and in front of his face was Time magazine. Remember Time magazine?
Yeah.
At one point, it was one of the, the
Weekly.
pillars
Yeah.
of
My-
news
my
information
dad got
in this
it.
country.
Yeah.
Time magazine.
Yeah.
Now that came once a week. The news moved a heck of a lot slower
For sure.
40 or 50 years ago. Now, I mean, click, 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 click. I look at the news at noon, and at 6 o'clock, I'm looking for new news,
Right.
which is a weird sickness.
And if you asked me today, hey, Kath, what were the top 4 at 4 today? I would have to take a few seconds and say,
right, and you just
remember.
invested deeply in it.
yeah, and it took me hours to do. So it's just, yeah, and our attention spans are just drifting away, right?
Yes,
They're
it
just shriveling up and dying
It is.
in a tawdry way.
I'm sorry.
All right, we're going to take a step away. When we come back, though, when we take a step back, Dr. Kurt Thompson is a psychiatrist in private practice. He joins us on a monthly basis. We're going to talk about desire. That's next Thursday. No, it's not Thursday. It's Wednesday. Ride home. Sorry.
Doctor is in. Every month, Dr. Kurt Thompson joins us. Kurt is a psychiatrist in private practice in Falls Church, Virginia. His brand new book, which drops next Tuesday, is called The Soul of Desire, Discovering the Neuroscience of Longing, Beauty, and Community. Dr. Thompson, welcome to the show. How are you?
John and Kathy, it's so great to be back with you this month.
Great. Well, we're excited about the book coming out. And so maybe we kind of get into it a little bit today, Kurt, and maybe you talk about the word. Why are you, what's the foundation of your interest in this desire, and what does that mean for the body of Christ?
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, you know, we are people who, in the last book that I wrote, you know, when we talk an awful lot about shame, we discover that, you know, one of the things that the brain really has a tendency to do is that it is primed and wired to pay attention to and look for trouble in the world. We look for trouble. We look for where we respond to shame. We respond to danger. We're trying to pay attention to where that is, as a way for us to cope with it and as a way for us to kind of avoid it at times. And so a lot of our work is spent analyzing, scanning the landscape, not just physically, but relationally, emotionally, often in ways that we don't really recognize. But what we don't, you know, and even those of us who are people of faith, when we think about what it means for us to be human, when you think about the gospel, you know, some of the first things that we think about that is valuable about the gospel, why is the gospel important to us, is because God has come in Jesus to save us from our sin, all of which is true. And it's easy for us to begin, when we think about the experience that we have with God, to think that that whole process begins, that it primarily starts with God's mission to save us, God's mission to clean things up that are problematic. And of course, that's not untrue. But what we often forget is that that's not where the story began. The story of what it means to be human doesn't begin in Genesis 3 with the story of Adam and Eve and what we traditionally call the fall. The story begins in Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, where who we are to begin with are people who have been made in God's image. We're made to be like God.
Yes.
And often as people, you know, one of the first things that we think about when we think about what does it mean to be like God, we think of that as we are sentient beings, right? We are thinking people. We reason things. We have consciousness. We are paying attention to things in ways that other animals don't pay attention to. We think and talk and build bridges and buildings and academies and all kinds of things that other animals, so this is what it means for us to be people in God's image, all of which is true. But even before that, we have to recognize that when God created humankind, in Genesis chapter 1:26, there's a statement that the text reads and says, "Let us make mankind in our image." This sense of, if that text had followed the way all the other texts before it would have read, you'd expect us to get to Genesis 1:26, and the text would read, "And God said, let there be mankind, and there was mankind." Just like, "And God said, let there be light, and there was light." But God didn't just say, "And let there be mankind," and there was mankind. God said, "Let us make mankind." He's going to have a conversation about this. He's going to consider this. God is going to reflect among, we would say the Holy Trinity is reflecting among themselves about what we're going to do. And in that reflection, they look down through the corridors of history and they see Good Friday coming. But they see Easter coming beyond it, and they say, we're going to do this anyway. They see Cain murdering Abel, and they say, we're going to do this anyway. They see our cancer coming. They're going to do this anyway, because this is a God who so desires us to be in relationship with him, who longs for us to long for him, that he doesn't want us to miss out on this life, even if that means he's going to take the risk that we make mistakes, that we screw up, that we are people who are broken. This God is a God of desire. We like to say God is the great desirer. And as such, we recognize that if we're going to be made in his image, one of the first things we recognize is that we are people who are also made with desire. We come out of the womb wanting things. Babies are wanting things left and right. Toddlers are wanting things. left and right, and they let you know it unabashedly. This whole notion that we are people of desire is important because what we recognize is that it is our desire that evil hijacks and turns us in directions that lead to shame and fear and violence and so forth. And then what can happen is, because of that, we then think that desire itself is suspect.
Yes.
And so we don't pay that much attention to it, or we try to bury it, or we try to hide it, or we try to make sure that we keep it under wraps, all the while not really aware that what God is trying to do is to awaken us to desire for Him, desire to be known, and desire, as we will talk about later in other episodes on this show, this desire for us to create beauty and goodness in the world.
Right. So, Kurt, you're saying desire is good, but it's often misplaced.
Exactly. In fact, it's this whole notion of, jujitsu, if you will, right? This sense that desire is like momentum. Desire is like a moving object. And what evil has done in its wounding of us with our shame and our fear and our betrayal and our murder and our lust and all the things that we are as human beings, what it has done is it has bent the direction of our momentum such that desire now turns into devouring. And I need to clutch and hoard, and my desire turns into something that is dangerous for others and dangerous for me, but not because desire is inherently problematic. And the moment that I think that what I'm going to do is just stop paying attention to desire, evil has us even further in its clutches, because the moment that we bury it and it goes underground and I stop paying attention to it, it starts to come out sideways. It starts to come out in all kinds of ways. We think that when we do the things that we do, we have affairs, we become intoxicated, we do all the things that seem so not like we are to be being as Christians. We think that this is about us, like bad behavior. This is about our longing for things, but because we don't name what we long for, we simply believe that all we need to do is stop our bad behavior. If we're not paying attention to longing, if I'm not paying attention to the fact that fundamentally what I'm looking for is to be seen, soothed, safe, and secure, my desire will go underground and come out in some other way that in the long run is going to have me paying an even steeper price.
Dr. Kurt Thompson is with us, psychiatrist in private practice in Falls Church, Virginia. He's the author of the upcoming book, The Soul of Desire, Discovering the Neuroscience of Longing, Beauty, and Community. Kurt, you said just a couple seconds ago that if we don't name what our desire is, and that's curious to me. So are you saying that we aren't able to identify what our desires are?
Incapable.
Or we're incapable, or that we are afraid of them and so we don't talk about them?
Let me give you a quick example. So let's say, and I've used this example elsewhere, perhaps even on our time together here. You are a 10-year-old girl, and you're really, you're working hard at math, and you love math. And you bring your math test to your dad, and you've gotten a 92% on your math test, and it's the best you've ever done, and you're really proud of this. And you bring your math test to your dad with your 92%, and your dad says to you, Kathy, where's the other 8%? Now, that may not have been your experience, and this isn't child abuse, but we know where this goes. You're a 10-year-old kid who comes with joy and anticipation, this longing, this desire to be seen by your dad.
Affirmed.
Mm-hmm.
And this desire now becomes literally, neurologically tainted with the experience of shame. And so what am I going to remember? I'm going to remember that to want connection with my dad, I'm going to remember that that's going to cause me. I'm going to have to pay the price of being ashamed. And so by the time I'm 18, I will have practiced working really, really hard to find the other 8%, and I will be sure that I will not ask to be recognized for it. I won't name that I really want to see. I'm just going to work hard for this, and all I'm going to do is work harder and harder and harder. And before you know it, I don't just translate that with my dad. I translate that into my relationship with God. because I'm not really given the opportunity to name that what I really want is the joyful connection about being able to present to you something I've done really well. And so after a while, this 18-year-old is now in graduate school. This 18-year-old is a mother of 3 kids, and she's working her tail off just trying to get through the day. And someone says, "What do you want?" And she has been practicing now perhaps for 20 years, practicing not allowing herself to want things, because to want things leads to shame. And this is how our brain literally splices story and memory together in such a way that I won't name what I really want. Or, for instance, when we have an affair, and I think that what I want is this relationship with this person who's not my spouse, only we come to discover that what I really want is lying far behind that. But because I haven't had much practice with anybody inquiring of me, what is it that you really want? What's underneath all of that? Because I don't have much practice with anybody inquiring of me about that, I take what is easiest to acquire that is sitting right in front of me, instead of being really curious about what God is asking me to name. What do you want? We will see later on, as we talk about this over the next few months, why is it that the first recorded words of Jesus in John's gospel are these words to John the Baptist's disciples: "What do you want?" It is crucially important for us to name what we want, because when we are willing to do the work of getting under all the superficial answers to that, we discover that our heart cry is to be seen and known by God in order for us to together, along with his people, create beauty and goodness in the world in response to Jesus coming and loving us. But I don't get to answer that question because that question is not put to me. And instead, I have all my addictions that get in front of it. I have all of my obsessions that get in front of it. I have all of my things that get in front of it that end up, more importantly, having you in my office.
Boy, Kurt.
That's really good.
That's really fascinating. It really, really is. You've opened up a lot of doors here.
I can't wait. I can't wait for the book.
Yeah, thanks an awful lot. I mean, so next Tuesday, The Soul of Desire, Discovering the Neuroscience of Longing, Beauty, and Community. Next Tuesday, the book releases, yes?
Yes, it does. Right. You can get it through Amazon. You can get it through InterVarsity Press, their websites. And I'm eager for the book to get out, eager for people to get it in their hands.
Yes, we're eager as well, and to read it and then to have these conversations deeper as you open up some things truly I never even considered. So thank you for that, Kurt.
The Soul of Desire, Discovering the Neuroscience of Longing, Beauty, and Community. Thanks, Dr. Kurt Thompson.
Yes, Dr. Kurt Thompson, psychiatrist in private practice, Falls Church, Virginia. We'll take a quick break, step away. We got more ahead.
Does this make sense?
Does this make sense? That's next here on The Ride Home. Stick around.
Does that make sense?
Does what make sense?
The driver's test.
Oh, yeah. 1,000%. Have you seen drivers out there? I mean, we should be required to take it every year. The driver's test, to me, makes perfect sense. Know the rules of the road, please, and then follow them. It's horrible out there on the road. You don't think it makes sense?
Nope.
What?
Nope, I don't.
What, everybody just gets in a car?
Nope, that's not it at all. This is what I'm saying. What sense does it make to put someone who's 17 years old and have them drive around a parking lot? If you're going to have somebody know how to drive, you need to have them on the parkway,
Yeah.
merging
Merging.
on
That's a
like
lost art.
Roslyn Farms,
Yeah.
or merging from Monroeville.
People don't know how to
or
merge.
from what's that exit right beyond Monroeville going east? When you get on that, I mean, it's crazy
I know
town.
it is, yeah.
It is crazy town.
People can't merge.
The fact that merging is not included on the driver's
I
test
agree, 100%.
means that the driver's test
Yeah.
does not.
Because you know why? Merging
sense.
requires people to surrender
Yes.
themselves.
And you have to be
yield.
yes.
You voluntarily
Yes.
yield yourself.
And you have to be able to
Doesn't
be
happen.
moving your car ahead while looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
That's not part of the driver's test.
Or I'm just going to, go, and then you get out of my way. Wait, get out of wait. You're coming into the fast lane, and don't get me started. Oh, it's the worst. Oh
The
my
driver's
God.
test, the way it's set up,
Doesn't make sense.
does not.
Thank
I've
you.
convinced you.
Yeah, you have.
Does not make
Seriously,
sense.
okay,
Does
yeah.
not make
Holy
sense.
smokes. Mine's kind of tiny by comparison. This is
Oh.
just an irritant.
Is it a tawdry irritant?
Not really.
Okay.
No, it's not tiny. The dongle. The dongle? Okay, I bought a phone and I can't plug anything into it.
Of course not.
Now I need a dongle. But the
what
problem
happened
is
with the dongle?
I lost it.
Oh, well.
Now I can't-
when you lose your dongle.
So now I can't plug headphones in, but unless I have my high-priced headphones, or I can't plug in to listen to my music on a larger speaker. The dongle, is that a rip?
You need to keep track of your dongle.
The dongle. Now I had to go and buy a dongle
Did
today.
you really?
Yeah. I had to go to Amazon and buy. And someone said to me, well, the ones you get from Amazon, you need to buy the Apple dongle. Now I'm like, paying for something and then I got to pay again.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Mm-hmm. How about taking the driver test and running over the dongle? That should be
I think that would
part of the mix.
I think that would be fine. No, I mean, we know that every accoutrement for technology is a ripoff.
Yeah.
That they're absolutely fabricated so that you have to buy the external, CD-ROM, or you
Yep.
have to buy the external USB or whatever it is. That does not make sense.
The dongle, tawdry. your neighbor. It's easy to be a bad neighbor, isn't it?
I'm a bad neighbor.
Wait, why do you say that?
Oh, because I'm just not a good neighbor. I mean, it's not like I'm a bad neighbor. Like my husband and I fight loudly, or we play music, or we
Right.
slam the door, or we mow the lawn at 6 a.m. on Saturday.
Don't get me started.
It's none of those things. I just feel like,
You don't know your neighbor.
yeah, because I mean, I know our neighbors, but I don't feel like I know them well, because I don't know the way that current contemporary life is and our work is and everything. I don't feel like I'm as good of a neighbor as I wish I was.
Did you just blame you being a bad neighbor on the internet?
No, I know. I just meant in general.
I mean, I'm a bad neighbor because of the internet.
It might be, but it might be. It might be because I spend too much time on the internet and not enough time with the people who live next door.
I mean, maybe put your mouse down and go say hi.
What? He's a tough customer, Christy.
I'm just saying.
That's
I mean,
right.
you
He's-
indicted yourself.
that's right.
I just jumped
He's
on the
taking
train.
us out for lunch tomorrow. It'll
I
be
am.
fun.
Yeah. Lisa Anderson is with us. Lisa is director of Boundless Young Adults at Focus on the Family. She hosts the Boundless Show. It's a weekly podcast and a radio show. And Lisa, welcome to the show. You are currently being a good neighbor, are you not?
Hi. Hey, guys. I would like to say I'm an improving neighbor.
Okay.
So, and to Kathy's defense, maybe Kathy's not a bad neighbor. Kathy, maybe you're just kind of a lame neighbor right now.
Yes. Okay, I'm lame.
Lame neighbor.
Boy, I was tawdry earlier. Now I'm lame.
Bring it
I'm
on.
glad I showed up. I could have called in sick. All right, Lisa. Okay, so talk about, did you think that you were a bad neighbor and so you decided to change things, or what? How have you gotten to where you are?
Yeah, so part of it was solved by me making a move. So I used to live, which is kind of weird. I used to live more in the downtown portion of my town, which you would think is like, oh, okay, urban renewal and people are out and about walking. But I fronted a pretty busy street, so it wasn't like people just strolled by me all the time. So I used that as my excuse to kind of be like, not going to deal with it. And then I had my one neighbor who really was next to me was just kind of like curmudgeonly. And so I just decided I didn't really like him. And I actually invited him to church one Easter, and he literally told me that he had to fly a kite. Like that was his actual excuse for not going to church with me.
Wow.
So anyway, I moved locations now. Well, now I'm in this hyper neighborhood where it's kind of like a lot of semi-retired people who are all about like meeting other people. So now I feel like there's all kinds of opportunity, and it's more a matter of me as a full-time working person, like prioritizing, okay, these are a lot of probably lonely people who are trying to reach out, who kind of are being that fakey, fakester neighbor kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I make this happen and draw people a little deeper? And so I'm having to be intentional about it.
Very good. So that's the key word, right? There's an intentionality now when you moved places and you said, okay, I'm going to try to seek out and be a good neighbor. So there's a 96-year-old woman in your neighbor. Who's your neighbor? Tell us that story.
Yeah, so get this. So I met her, and I actually have a roommate. So my friend and I from church, we are both single. We are housemates. We were out on a nearby trail, and we meet this woman. She was 93 at the time. This was on the 4th of July. She was wearing this star-spangled outfit celebrating the holiday, walking. And then she was kind of like, I introduced myself, and she said, oh, yeah, I'm trying to do this trail, but I think it's getting a little steep. I'm a little nervous. And I said, well, why don't you walk with us? Take my arm. And so we got to know her. Well, long story short, we built a friendship, and she now has kind of become an honorary grandma in the sense of she has 2 sons, but they're not in our state. And so we've kind of adopted her, and we've become her go-to for errands, for just helping her out with stuff, for having her over, kind of helping break the loneliness, especially during COVID. And so it's been a real mutual opportunity to have a friend in that totally different age and stage, but it's been a real blessing. So super cool opportunity there. And other neighbors, too, that I've had the chance to meet, whether it's walking to the mailboxes or whether it's, I think the big thing, you guys, as far as making this attainable is the fact that none of us have margin in our lives anymore.
Yeah,
so we have to create margin, because here's the thing, and I can see myself doing this. For example, if I go out to the front of my house to water my flowers, I say to myself, I've got 30 seconds to do this, and then I need to be on to my next thing. Well, then I see a neighbor and I'm like ducking to try to avoid eye contact so they don't talk to me because I don't want to get caught up in a conversation. That's just like wrong. So I've gotten to the point where now I don't go out and water my flowers unless I know I can spend 20 minutes out there in case someone walks by with their dog, tries to engage me. I can have a conversation. How was your weekend? And it just is so much more freeing knowing that I've budgeted that time in to make it happen.
Oh, that's really interesting.
really
That's
good.
fascinating.
Really
okay,
good.
so when you said that, Lisa, it reminded me, a friend of mine, I remember this was like 20 years ago. This is a guy who was super, really just outgoing. And to go out with my friend, Pat, he would make a point of, as he was like out and about, to seek people out. It was this intentional thing that he did. So I would spend an afternoon with Pat. I would have more conversations in an afternoon with Pat than I would have in an entire 2-week period. That intentionality, I loved it.
Yeah, and there are ways that you can do that. For example, like, we need to start taking life, if we're going to spend time at home, let's take it out maybe onto our front lawns once in a while. So I often tell like my friends who have young kids, don't always have your kids play in the backyard. Once in a while, have them play in the front yard. And then you and your husband just sit out there. You never know who will stroll by and be like, oh, your kids are so cute. Or, again, little dogs, comment on someone's dog and you'll get into a half-hour conversation. It's just looking someone in the eye, asking them a great question, showing interest in them, and you never know where the conversation will go. I went in fact, just last week, I spoke at a college in Missouri, and my neighbors across the street from me, not even Christians or anything, they found out where I was going, and they said, oh my goodness, we stopped there once, and they have this camp restaurant that they have this amazing apple butter and you wouldn't believe it. And I'm like, what? I'd never been there. Cool. So I made a point when I went there to speak to buy them a jar of apple butter from this place and bring it back to them and walk it over and say, I thought of you guys and I wanted to get this to you. They were just floored. They couldn't believe that I'd thought of them. And so it's just a little way of making that happen.
Yeah, that's good. Lisa Anderson is with us, director of Boundless and Young Adults at Focus on the Family. She hosts the Boundless Show, weekly podcast and radio show. Lisa, the reason that I know the people in my neighborhood is because we don't have air conditioning. That's the bottom line. It just is. Because when it's so hot here in Pittsburgh, and believe me when I tell you it is, we sit out on our front porch and eat dinner every single night. And so everybody who has a dog or everybody who likes to walk ends up walking by our house. Right. And so I was thinking about it when you were talking about, play with your kids in the front yard instead of the backyard. Seriously, if I had air conditioning, and this is so sad, but I probably wouldn't know a single person in my neighborhood.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that, and the same thing goes to apply with people who are just, finding ways to do so many indoor activities instead of being out, especially during the summer and fall when there's different things going on. So, for example, somehow we're all finding time to binge watch 7 new TV series. Right. But yet we can't find time to just say hi to a neighbor or maybe have them over for coffee or in fact, I was just talking to neighbors last night and saying, we were talking about asking good questions of one another. And I said, oh, have you ever heard of this game, Loaded Questions? It's my favorite game. And I'll have to maybe have you guys over to do it sometime. And they're like, we would love that. And so now I'm kind of like, okay, I really need to make that happen. And again, it's not too many of us think that to engage neighbors or to have them in our lives, we have to have model homes. We have to have all the conditions have to be perfect. Everything has to be, I have to come up with some culinary masterpiece to invite people into. That is not me. I can't do that. That's not attainable. So I need to just lower the bar and care about my neighbors and make it happen on whatever level I can make it happen.
Nice. So, Lisa, you sort of made a visual for us. You say that we're insiders and necessarily we should be making margins. Yeah,
absolutely. And also being in the space that we're in. So, for example, too often we're saying, okay, well, I'm going to, whether if we're parents and we're shuttling kids all over the city or we're doing whatever, we're always going places to accomplish something. And as a result, we're in our cars a ton. Well, then the people that are right in our space, whether that is the school districts we move in or the neighborhood that we're in or the gym that we go to, we're just in and out because we're just trying to accomplish it as a task rather than looking at it as an opportunity to be present in a space that we would occupy anyway. And so for people, another great idea for people who are like, oh, I don't have time. Well, say you want to, you're going to walk or you're going to run anyway. You need to get a workout in. Grab a friend or a neighbor, someone else who would be into walking, someone else who wants to join you. Then you're going to kill two birds, and it gives you the opportunity to get your workout in, but do it with someone that you can connect with. And so to be that kind of insiderish person of the person, God has placed us all in unique spots to be influencers and to have impact on the people around us. But if we're just looking inwardly and we're just, as you guys were saying, we're online or we're doing all these fake stuff on social media and stuff, we're never going to truly get to know people and truly have the opportunity to care for people and serve people when it really matters.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good. Lisa Anderson, director of Boundless and Young Adults at Focus on the Family. She also hosts The Boundless Show. It's a weekly podcast and a radio show. Lisa, we always love our conversations. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
Yeah, our pleasure. That's good encouragement.
It is a good encouragement.
The margins.
I'll be out on my porch again tonight like I am every night.
It's too hot. I thought you were getting air conditioning.
Well, like in a year, maybe.
Pittsburgh's the 9th. Oh, sorry. I just followed her.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, just follow her. Just follow her. I'm coming out and go.
So right before we were leaving the air,
yeah,
you started to say something and then didn't finish.
I did. What?
Do you remember what it was?
I did. We were talking about air conditioning, and I saw that Pennsylvania is the 9th worst state for people who don't have air conditioning.
Oh, so
do you know what the number
you mean
one?
Because it's so hot? Or do you mean just as numbers of people who don't have it?
Who don't have it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we're
you know
not
the number one state is? Which I would never even consider? The number one state where people don't have air conditioning is what?
The number one state, Maine.
California. Exactly. Isn't that weird? I read that today. I'm like, and then I saw Pennsylvania. I was like, oh, we're number 9. And then I thought, well, that's me. And then I thought, well, that's oh, and that's not Kath.
No, it is Kath.
She's leaving. She's leaving the air
I just had
conditioning.
someone come in and give me a price. I haven't purchased anything
Traitor. It's done. We're done.
yet. This friendship is over.
How
All
can
right.
you leave the hot room?
All right. Okay, stop talking because we need to express our
Stop talking.
appreciation
It's a talk show.
for National Coffee Day because that's what today is.
National Coffee Day.
Yes, it is. So I want to know, have you celebrated such a thing, John?
I can't believe it. I didn't know it was National Coffee Day. I
Okay.
did not know this.
Yeah.
Here's the weird thing. For decades, literally for decades, I've been drinking a cup of coffee a day.
First
One.
thing in the morning?
Yeah. Today, I kid you not, I've had 3. What happened?
Why?
Well, I had that first cup, and then I was home a little later this morning, and so I had a second cup. And then I came in here, and about like before the show started, I thought, I've got those Keurig cup things, and my wife bought. I thought, I'll have another cup of coffee, and I really enjoyed that as well. My third cup.
So do you feel like you're loaded up on caffeine?
I'm celebrating in a big way here. Happy National Coffee Day.
Christy, coffee lover, how have you celebrated today?
Pumpkin spice.
I did have a pumpkin spice latte. I went out at lunch and got one.
See?
Did you know it was National Coffee Day?
I did.
Okay.
I've had probably about 4 or 5 cups today.
What? Wait. 5 cups of coffee a day?
I mean,
Is that regular?
yeah.
5 cups of coffee. That's a lot.
I had 2 this morning in my Golden Girls mug. So that's about 8 ounces.
8
Then-
ounces.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's
2 of
small.
those is
That's small.
16. I have a Yeti that I had cold brew on my way to work. And then I went and got a pumpkin spice latte at lunch.
Oh
And you
my
probably
God.
have one this evening.
Maybe decaf.
Oh,
Do you
okay.
sense caffeine?
No,
Not at all.
no,
Okay. Would you sense it if you stopped drinking it?
probably.
Okay. But you've never gotten to that point, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Right. Okay.
But no coffee for you.
I don't like coffee.
I'm surprised by that.
I know.
It tastes so good.
Yeah, it doesn't taste good to me.
Do you drink dark coffee?
No.
Oh, I like it. The darker, the better. French roast or, something
Okay,
Ethiopian.
now keep in mind, if I love coffee ice cream, I love frappuccinos.
See, I don't like coffee ice cream.
How can you
I don't know.
see if I could combine milk, sugar, and coffee
Really?
with emphasis on the sugar, then I would drink
That's
coffee all
basically
the time.
Starbucks.
It is
Yeah, you're
Starbucks,
right.
but can you imagine if I drank that I'd lose. I wouldn't fit in my pants.
Do you feel caffeine?
I don't think so. I don't really notice that. The only thing I feel is when the iced tea at Panera is loaded
With caffeine?
with caffeine. That's the only place where I love tea. It's the only place where I drink tea and I think, what is happening in that?
Have you ever seen, like coffee bushes?
Yes, in Guatemala.
Yeah.
Is that where you saw them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
It is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. I wonder, are we killing something, by, producing all this coffee? Right? I mean, because people are drinking coffee like,
Well, it's
going out of style.
it's a crop. I mean, it can be.
It's just.
What, you think it's like overfishing?
I feel it's just excessive anymore.
Wait, but you
I
just had 3 cups today.
She had 4. Between
5.
us- 5.
I think she had 5.
I thought it was 4. 5.
Well, the 16 ounces, that's,
I had 2 16 ounces this morning.
that's like 4.
I had one of these. This is a 16-ounce cup.
That's like 4 cups of
Well,
coffee.
that's like 4 cups of coffee.
I feel good about it.
So,
You know what?
so
I'm
now
wide
you've
awake.
so you actually had 5 cups
Hey,
instead
hey.
of 3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Holy
Yeah.
cow! Listen, I would like to celebrate by having coffee ice cream tonight. That would be
Not that great.
It's the. Do you like coffee ice cream, Christy?
I do.
Is it? Oh, I love
it's
it.
amazing.
It's amazing. Oh, I
if
love
I'm
it.
gonna have ice
and if
cream-
you put just a little drizzle of chocolate sauce on top, oh my god!
All right. Happy National Coffee Day.
Happy
Was
National
Starbucks doing
Coffee
anything?
Day.
Did you get a discount or nothing?
No, Dunkin' has stuff, though.
Oh, Dunkin'. Who
Oh,
wants a
thank you.
Dunkin'?
That's right. That's why I went to Starbucks.
Okay, I think a lot of people want a Dunkin'. Don't
Anyway,
be so dismissive.
Tawdry.
Happy National Coffee Day.